Call meeting to order. Worthington City Council regular meeting, 5:30 p.m. Monday, November 25th, 2024, City Hall Council Chambers. Have everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody. We do have one addition to our agenda tonight under Administration F.2, amendments to the Administrative Secretary position guidelines.
Move to close the agenda with the addition.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, consent agenda, City Council meeting minutes for November 12th, 2024. Minutes of boards and commissions, Water and Light meeting minutes of November 18th, 2024. Planning Commission meeting minutes November 6th, 2024. Park and Recreational Advisory Committee meeting minutes of November 6th, 2024. Joint Law Enforcement Center meeting committee meeting minutes of November 13th, 2024. Heron Lake Watershed Board meeting minutes of October 16th, 2024. Application to conduct off-site gambling, Worthington Hockey Association. Financial statements, municipal liquor store income statement for the period of January 1st, 2024 through October 31st, 2024. Olson Park statement of revenue and expenditures, budget and actual for the period of January 1st, 2024 through October 31st, 2024. Fieldhouse statement of revenue and expenditures, budget and actual for the period of January 1st, 2024 through October 31st, 2024, and bills payable. Motion to.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. On to public utilities.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So we'll start with the good news, right? All right, the 2025 sewer service charge system was included in your packet, along with the case item memo, which explained kind of what was going on there. I'll just touch on some of the highlights. Water and Light Commission approved the 2025 wastewater budget at their meeting on November 18th. O&M expenses are up about $158,000 or about 8.9%. Biggest driver of that is electricity. Our new plant processes are up and running, and it's a lot more electricity intensive than our prior process, so no big surprise there. So over 50%, almost 51% of the increase in the O&M budget was electric costs. Debt service, obviously, build a $30 million plant, and we're incurring debt, and the chickens are coming home to roost, as they say. Debt service this year, we project to be up about $177,200 from last year. The proposed 2025 rates are collecting just over $1 million, $1,021,000 over the anticipated $1,702,000 in debt service. So we're going to collect 60% of the debt service in rates, and we're going to fund 40% with reserves. We've been doing that consistently. Last year, it was 50% collected in rates, 50% from reserves. The year before that was 33% from rates, 67% from reserves, and in 2022, we funded the debt service 100% from reserves.
What's our reserve sitting at right now?
Well, and we've got probably about $9 million, I suppose, that might be available, although, and what we've talked about at the commission level is there was a reserve for equipment replacement. Dollars were set aside every year to replace equipment, at the treatment plant. I anticipate that we'll probably be making our final draw and final payment, probably final payment to the contractor, I'm guessing is going to be sometime this spring. But once we have taken our final draw on our PFA loan, they'll put together a final amort schedule for us. And then in 2025, the commission's going to have a discussion, how many reserve dollars should we dedicate and create a debt retirement reserve. And then we'll dedicate a certain dollar amount each year to apply toward the debt service. Because those were dollars that were collected from ratepayers in the past to replace equipment at the plant, and now virtually everything at the plant is new. There was discussion when we were going to build the plant about how much reserve money should we use versus what should we incur in debt. But we were fortunate enough to qualify for a PFA loan at 1% for 20 years. So the commission felt it made a lot more sense to borrow all the money and then use the reserve to subsidize the debt service going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Scott, just bring me up to date a little bit. So the new plant, how long before that needs to be replaced or enhanced or added on to, or is there any type of estimate? So how long this plant's going to last us?
Well, the facility it just replaced went into service in 1962 and really had one major upgrade to it, and that was in the late 1980s. So obviously, you know, there's a lot of equipment in a plant, and stuff is going to wear out, stuff's going to fail, but certainly the major components of that plant, you know, it should be another 50, 60-year plant, I would think. Obviously, there's going to be costs involved, and then a lot of it has to do with, you know, what does MPCA do as far as permit regs? The plant is capable of, with some additional infrastructure, of doing biological nutrient removal. We didn't incorporate this, you know, that process at this point in time, but if our future permit comes out that's going to require, you know, reduction in nitrogen, for instance, then we're going to be able to do that. So, and we didn't. I mean, this wasn't a, you know, greenfield site. We incorporated quite a bit of infrastructure from the old plant into the new plant as well. So we've still got stuff out there that went into service in not necessarily mechanical equipment, but buildings that went into service back in 1962, and it's still in service today.
Chad?
What kind of expandable capacity with the new plant is there from what's currently being used to what it's built for future growth of the community, et cetera, and then the expandability if it meets that or gets to a threshold where you're like, we need to?
Yeah, there's definitely room to expand the facility. It's a 4 million gallon a day plant. Currently, our average flow is about 2 million. So we've got double the capacity there. Our BOD capability is actually, because of a change in processes, is about half of what the other plant was, but it's still significantly more than what we're seeing today. And we've got an awful lot of space. I don't know if anybody had ever toured the old plant, but it was an interesting project because, you know, what I had tasked the engineers with, I said, okay, you have to build a new process on the same footprint, and you keep the existing plant operating and
Yeah.
meeting permit limits. But everything in the middle, all the trickling, our old process was a trickling filter facility. All the trickling filters are gone. The new liquid process was built way on the east end of the plant. The solids processes remained on the west end of the plant, and everything in the middle now was wide open. So there's a lot of space between what's going on the east end and what's going in on the west end. And there's room for another digester, and there's room for additional aeration basins, clarifiers if need be in the future. Right now, the new plant has got 2 final clarifiers, and we're only operating one at a time.
Good. I think it's just good for people to, or at least to have it on the record for people to hear, because of course, you know, if you went back 15, 20 years ago, the rumor mill said that Worthington can't grow anymore because it doesn't have the utilities or resources to, you know, well, one, water was a big thing. That got fixed.
Yep.
This capacity now, so people can squash all the rumor mills of sort of that.
There's room.
Thank you.
There's room.
Yep.
So in addition to the increase in the debt service and the increase in the amount of money we're going to collect through rates for debt to service that debt, the other big driver of the rate increase was a $200,000 increase in what we're collecting for sanitary sewer system improvements going forward. In the past, that was usually about $500,000 a year collected in rates. You can't do as much for $500,000 today as you used to be able to do. In fact, in the 2025 budget, we've got $833,000 planned in collection system improvements, and we're collecting $700,000. So we'll be utilizing reserves to fund the balance of that. And if we look out, we always do a 5-year capital improvement plan. Over the 5 years, 25 through 29, we average about almost $861,000 a year in collection system improvements. So, we needed to bump that number, and we bumped that a couple $100,000. Fortunately or unfortunately, under the current sewer charge ordinance, the vast majority of both of those components, the debt service and the collection system improvements, hit the connection charge, which is that fixed monthly charge, the hardest. Under the proposed rates, the monthly connection charge that you pay, you don't get any usage along with that, is going to go from $28.62 a month to $34.73, or increase of $6.11. The usage rate under the proposed charge is going to go from $5.22.9 per 1,000 gallons to $5.75. The impact, average residential customers generally fall someplace between 4,000 and 5,000 gallons a month in usage. For a 4,000 gallon a month user, the impact is an additional $8.22 a month, and for a 5,000 gallon user, it's $8.74. So $8.50 a month. Speaking of the rate formula, that was something that was developed and we've been using a long time. With the new process, some of the equipment that's referred to in there doesn't exist anymore. I'll be working with a consultant through the year, and they have already reviewed our existing plan, but that current sewer user charge is set in ordinance. Looking to simplify that process, come up with a new rate formula, and then at some point in time in 25, I anticipate that I'll be coming back to council, probably with the consultant, making a recommendation for council to repeal the existing ordinance and adopt the new ordinance. I don't anticipate it's really going to have a lot of impact on what components go to fixed charge and what components go to the variable usage charge, but it's something that needs to be straightened out. Felt comfortable continuing to use it this year because that's what we had, and I think it does fairly proportion the fixed costs and the variable costs out. So with that, I'm happy to answer any other questions. Otherwise, on behalf of the Water and Light Commission, they formally recommend City Council adopt the 2025 sewer service charge system by passing the resolution contained in Exhibit 4.
Steve?
Scott, you said the PFA loan, that was a 20-year loan at 1% interest. What was the total amount of the loan?
We were authorized for about $30.2 million. I anticipate we'll probably draw between 28 and 29.
Thank you.
Yeah, we were very fortunate when we bid this project at exactly the right time. 6 months later, I would bet that this project would have gone up $7 or $8 million.
Chris?
You have general information or approximates of maybe providing a brief history of what rate increases we've had in the last 5-10 years?
Yeah, I've got, matter of fact, I anticipated the question. I can tell- Yeah, because we knew that, you know, wanted to, you know, do things in steps. Back in, well, just the last 5 years, so looking back at 2020, the connection charge was $16.54. Proposed 25 is $34.73, so it's more than doubled. Usage charge was $3.631. Proposed is $5.75, so that's up about 58% in 5 years. If we look at, like I said, the average residential customer, somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 gallons a month, what has happened from 2020 to 2025 is for a 4,000 gallon customer, gallon a month customer, their monthly cost in that 5 year period has gone up $26.67. Divide that by 5 years. So on average, it's been bumping about $5 a month a year for the last 5 years.
Is it variable from year to year? Or
It
have
has
we
been a
changed?
little, it has been a little variable, because this year, that impact on that 4,000 gallon customer is $8.22, so it's been a little lower than that, you know, $5.33 average in some of those years.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, you know, hate doing it, it's significant, but you can see it when we get, AE2S does a great survey of Midwest utilities every year, and you can go down the list and looking at, you know, wastewater rates and costs, and you know who has a new plant and who's going to have to build a new plant real soon.
Right.
I just want to point out the value of receiving that PFA loan and the effort it took to get approved for that and get on the list. And it was not, they don't hand those out just by asking for them. It was quite an undertaking. And had we not received the PFA loan, we would have been borrowing money at a significantly higher cost with more
Absolutely.
impact on our bonding capability. So that was a tremendous effort and a tremendous win on behalf of the staff that worked on receiving that. So I want to commend everyone that was involved.
Okay, anybody else have anything?
I'd move to pass the adoption of the resolution presented in Exhibit 4.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried.
Thank you,
Thanks,
folks.
Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Keep it flowing.
Oh, yeah. In the right direction.
All right, moving on to administration. The first case item is the third reading of the proposed ordinance to amend the stormwater utility rate. Complete copy of the ordinance was in the October 28, 2024 council packet. Council action is requested to give a third reading and subsequently adopt the proposed ordinance.
So moved.
Okay, have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried.
All right, thank you. Next item, and I apologize for the late effort to get this out, but we want to get this position advertised and didn't want to wait another couple of weeks. This is the amendments to the administrative secretary position guidelines. Administration and Human Resources staff periodically review the position guidelines and update the essential duties, responsibilities, and qualifications as needed. Attached as Exhibit 2 are the revised position guidelines for the administrative secretary position. The revisions do not result in changes to the respective salary grades or current wages in accordance with the city's compensation plan. I just want to point out the only, other than cleaning up some language, on the third page of the position guidelines, a couple things to note under job requirements, education. We are adding combination of skills, education, and experience, along with, the college or vocational school requirements. We will be addressing that in many of our position guidelines where we find that an advanced degree, while it may be helpful, is not essential, given that if we come across candidates that have the experience along with some or part of the education that we'd like to see. And the other thing is, on this position, this would be down in the Community Development Department, and our desirable education experience includes Spanish language proficiency and for this position. So council action is requested to approve the amendments to the above positions. Upon approval, staff will post and advertise the administrative secretary position.
Chris?
Just found one thing that it was probably just an oversight. And duties number 2, there, the first line, you did not strike and correct director of engineering, but you did on top. Was wondering if instead of city engineer.
Oh, I see. Yep.
Just a verbiage thing.
Thank you for pointing that out. We do have a director of engineering position, but we.
Right. I just thought since you,
That's not the position we currently have.
the reports to,
Yeah.
it was changed. I didn't
Yeah.
know
No,
if you wanted to make it cohesive, so,
Thank you.
yep.
Okay, anything else?
Move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
First item, approve revised task order 21 with Bolton and Meg to provide design service for East Okabena Lake Trail project. During the council meeting on June 12, 2023, the council passed the task order 21 with Bolton and Meg to provide engineering service for the East Okabena Trail project development, including right-of-way acquisition, project design, permitting, and environmental review. The initial task order 21 cost was not to exceed $127,500. The revised task order 21 Exhibit 1 is not to exceed additional amount of $123,000. Bolton and Meg to provide railroad coordination to establish an acceptable crossing under an existing Union Pacific Railroad bridge, design and coordination of a box culvert under Union Pacific Railroad, environmental documentation associated with the awarded 2024 Local Trail Connection Grant funding through the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and technical assistance to apply for additional grant funding through MnDOT's Active Transportation Infrastructure Program. Staff recommends the approval of revised task order 21.
Finish. I'm interested.
Yeah, so reason it's we need more money is basically during the conversation with the railroad, initial plan was to design to put a canopy goes under the railroad crossing, but now they're interested in closing that opening under underpass and turning it into us. If we want to keep that open, we need a new design, and we're going with a box culvert now. So with the new design, we need to approve reviewing from, I don't know if you guys remember, we had to go through that $50,000 design review process from railroad. I'm guessing that's going to come up again. And basically, we have to create a new whole design instead of the canopy. We're going with the box culvert. And that grant, the AT fund that last council meeting you guys approved, Bolton and Menk is handling that too, and that's on top of this. So
There was no dollars coming from the railroad at all, right?
not yet,
Okay.
no. I hope the conversation I'm going to bring up is that we paid that $50,000 design review fee, but then if they're going to require that again, I don't know if that's going to be any negotiable thing, since they changed the requirement from being the canopy to box culvert. I don't know how that's going to turn out to save some money, but that's in the future conversation.
It would make sense that they should take care of that.
A lot of things that would make sense until you put the word railroad in it.
Yeah,
But every time I ask people around what's going to happen, all the answer is they're railroad, so whatever they want to do, we'll just have to do
Exactly
whatever.
right.
Oh,
If you get a dime back, you'll be lucky.
Be nice if they're a good steward anyways.
So essentially, we're doubling.
yes. So we're basically starting a new design from scratch. That's
So
what's happening.
what kind of would that look like with the box culvert? Would they fill in the space between the top of the box culvert to the bottom of the overpass?
Correct. So we're talking about that right now, to who's gonna pay for that filling up, because technically, if they're gonna close the bridge, then it will be railroad responsibility to fill that up from the top of the culvert to the rail. We're in talk of that right now, but we are basically telling them that will be their responsibility. And all we can do is we can just not touch from the top of the culvert and what's existing, and then just leave it at that. And then if they, in the future, if they want to do anything else, then they can go ahead and do whatever they want to do.
it's still a great project, even after reading the comprehensive plan. You know, it's a
And-
great project.
And hopefully
expand
that
trail
active
system.
transportation grant, we are hoping if we get granted, that should cover the cost of the bridge, box culvert cost, construction cost.
Which is a lot less than $123,000.
We're projecting the box culvert would cost about $500,000 to $600,000, and that's what we're going for.
That the grant would cover.
Rent would come in, yep,
But we still have to pay another $123,000 to get a design.
correct.
Pretty spiffy path.
Without this, I mean, so the canopy is basically no-go, so I don't think there's another option. If we say no to this, don't design box culvert, then basically we just don't have that section from railroad right-of-way to railroad right-of-way. So
That part's not my fear. What's my fear that if the railroad doesn't like this, then?
But I think this was their recommendation.
Correct.
This came from them,
it
not
just haven't approved yet, final
because of
approved
the
yet.
design.
Yes,
They haven't-
correct.
Yeah.
Do we have that in writing someplace? Email?
I can provide that, yes.
Okay. Just,
So,
Protect us a little.
If the railroad, if
Oh.
it's the railroad's idea, they'll pass it.
yep,
If it's your idea,
well, canopy was their idea too.
I've seen
Yeah.
both.
right.
but
I've seen a railroad idea get reversed as well.
you can't win with the railroad.
You cannot.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion,
Second.
and we have a second. Okay, any further discussion?
Where's this money coming from? Did you say that and I missed it?
Nope, it will come out from reserve, 401 reserve.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries.
Not the project.
Right, 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 yep.
Right. Yep. Okay, motion's passed.
Second item, receive reports and order hearing on Service Road and Service Drive Improvement Project. During the council meeting on October 28, 2024, the council passed the resolution to order a feasibility report on the Service Drive and Service Road Improvement Project. The council is requested to receive the report and order the improvement hearing required by State Statute 429 to proceed with the assessment project. Included as Exhibit 2-1 is a feasibility report on the proposed improvement of the Service Drive and Service Road Improvement Project from Spring Avenue to Trunk Highway 5960. The proposed improvement involve replacement of the sanitary sewer main and sanitary service water main, water services, regrading, and pavement restoration. Assessment will not commence until the full scope of work is completed. The report provides comprehensive information on the proposed improvements, including cost, funding estimate, estimated assessment rates, and the city's share along with related improvement. Staff recommends that the council accept the reports and pass the resolution shown in Exhibit 2-2 to receive the report and call for hearing on the proposed improvements. These hearings are scheduled to be held at the December 23rd, 2024 council meeting.
Any questions?
In the feasibility report, it addresses how we're addressing the assessment rate. Basically, the grant fund is covering the cost of the city share first, and then whatever it's left, we're covering assessment rate to lower the assessment rate. And it comes down to about, it was about $50 per linear foot compared to about $200 linear foot on regular projects. So it's very significantly lower than regular projects. And with being low traffic count and not much of a heavy load traffic going through, we're proposing bituminous surface.
Isn't this area going to be used during the construction time?
459 Turnback project, yes.
So wouldn't that be a lot of traffic?
During that time, yes, and with MnDOT, usually if they're, I don't know with this project because it's Turnback project, but usually if MnDOT is using the local road for detour purposes, they do compensate a little bit for that purpose, so I can look for that too.
Chad?
You talked about bituminous being used on that, or any portions of that heavy and high weight vehicles, that bituminous becomes a lot more at risk of holding up.
Not necessarily, because we still do follow the MnDOT 10-ton design, so it shouldn't be any less fragile compared to concrete.
Okay.
By the load, impact of the load.
Anybody else have anything?
Move to adopt the resolution, receive the reports, and call for the hearing.
Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any discussion? But all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, good evening, Mayor, Council. Bear with me, I know my voice doesn't sound great tonight. Item 1 here is a parking at the downtown plaza, or the pavilion, as it's sometimes referred to. The city's downtown plaza has regularly been utilized as a parking lot outside of special events since it was constructed. This has led to concerns about the safety of parking in that area and whether utilizing the area as a parking lot fits with the purpose of the plaza. The city's Traffic and Safety Committee discussed this, the downtown plaza parking at its October 29th meeting, and unanimously voted to recommend that City Council prohibit parking at the plaza outside of special events. The committee based this recommendation on safety issues and the purpose of the plaza, and ultimately they really just wanted to forward that recommendation on to City Council, and they're looking for really determination as to whether City Council wants to continue to allow parking there or to prohibit it.
Amy?
I was on the 10th Street Plaza committee before it was built, and we had a couple of business owners come with big concern regarding a place for their employees to park. How did the Traffic and Safety Committee address that issue?
Yeah, they did talk a little bit about that, and with the availability of both on-street parking and some other parking lots, for instance, this parking lot we just paved right down here, they felt that there was still sufficient parking around the downtown area for business employees.
I know we don't have any markers or anything like that, there's a lot of random people just walking through there, like you have parking spots. So has there been any near misses, people getting backed into a run over or close calls or anything?
Not to my knowledge. Todd, have you had anything with that?
We have had, one of our tables down there was run into. We have had somebody hit one of the pillars on the plaza itself, or on the pavilion. We've had random people park there in the wintertime, semis parked under there. It's just became a place where people think they can just pull in and park. And as we discussed in our traffic and safety meeting, we just paved the parking lot right over here, which is less than a block from where it is now, which is parking from 6 a.m. till 1 o'clock in the morning. So there's parking, plenty of parking downtown, and there's on-street parking all the way around there. That doesn't necessarily be right in front of the downtown 10th Street businesses. And some of those businesses you can park by Wells Fargo or First Avenue, Second Avenue. There's adequate parking, we think.
I guess to me, it didn't look like it was designed for a parking lot. Otherwise, you'd be putting your parking stalls in there and stuff. But, there's enough people that, especially in the summertime, that they play there. There's different activities, and sidewalks. But Todd.
One other thing too, anytime that it's rented, and we have to go down there and make sure that we put the signs out that say event today, no parking. So that takes my guys time, whether it's Saturday or Sunday, to check the bathrooms anyway. But we have to make sure they're out, and sometimes we run into the fact that there's people parked there when we do have an event going on. It's just, it was designed for farmers market, stuff like that. We're not saying we want to stop them from using it to pull up there, but just during events.
I get it. It's nice convenience, that you could use it for parking. But again, it wasn't the primary goal, I don't think, either.
Well, I'm concerned that, if there's people that are pulling underneath that plaza, maybe hitting the pillars, we don't want to, be causing damage to that facility, a lot of money involved. To me, we're a little bit, seems to me, a little bit late to the party on this thing, Or have these issues just started, or, what's it been, 3 years, 4 years since we've had that?
I'm not sure.
But I can see your reasons for doing it, so I think it probably needs to be done, if they're going to take advantage, of the project.
Chris.
Matt and perhaps Todd, if we haven't had any more advancement in putting like big planters or other kind of cement table picnic areas, group meeting areas that would maybe deter parking there?
We've looked into some planters and benches and stuff like that, but we haven't gone any farther than just really looking into them.
Okay.
It was all part of, and Amy can kind of be involved in this. This was all kind of a part of our design process. That one time we looked at making it more of a useful area. We did put some tables down there and stuff like that.
Anybody else have anything? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve banning parking in the downtown plaza.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you. Stephanie, come on up here. All right, so this next item here is about a year and a half in the works here. This is final adoption of our Worthington 2045, our new comprehensive plan to guide growth policy and decision-making over the next 20 years. In accordance with state statute, the City Planning Commission held a public hearing regarding the adoption of this plan at its November 6th meeting, and the commission voted unanimously to recommend adoption of the plan. The final draft was open to public review prior to that public hearing and was sent to all of you via email on October 11th, so you did receive the final draft for review. And then it was also included with your packet here tonight. And most of you should remember Stephanie here with SRF, but I'm going to let her do some talking and give a little presentation here as well.
Thank you, Matt. Mayor and council members, it's a pleasure to be with you this evening, as Matt did a great job highlighting. This has been about 18 months in the making. A lot of great conversations and analysis that have gone into this plan, so hopefully you found it as a good read. As part of my presentation, I'll just kind of hit things at a high level. I'll breeze through some of the beginning pieces of what is a comprehensive plan and our process, and really focus a little bit more on our outcomes and that plan for implementation. Chris, I apologize that you've seen this presentation a couple weeks ago.
Sorry.
Yep. But to start out, what is a comprehensive plan and what does it include? Matt highlighted the requirements a little bit from what state statutes require us to, or give us the opportunity really to plan for through state statutes. But really, when it comes down to it, the comprehensive plan is our guide for decision making. It was already referenced here once this evening, but it's intended for you as our elected officials, staff, residents, other committees and councils to understand our vision as a community and what our goals are moving forward. So as that guiding document, it needs to establish that vision and have goals and objectives and really prepare for implementation. The intention of this plan is that it's a usable document that you'll reference on a regular basis as you're making decisions or deciding things to analyze or explore. At its core, the one major requirement that calls for in state statutes is that plan for future growth and the influence future land use regulations. So as our planning commission is reviewing zoning changes and things of that nature, that's the primary implementation element of the comprehensive plan, is looking at that future land use guidance. But it's also an opportunity for us to look at the other city systems, and so we did, for example, take a look at how our growth, the land use growth that we had identified, how that might impact our utility system, and where do we put different types of growth based on utility needs that we have moving forward. So it's really that opportunity as we're planning for growth to make sure that we're protecting and enhancing those investments that you've already made as a community. But very importantly, it is a plan that's built from community engagement and should be the community's plan, so something that a lot of people can reference and can see their engagement informing where the vision of the community. And it is a living document, so it can be amended at any point. If some big change happens in 5 years and you need to make edits, you can do that through a public process, whether those amendments are big or small. So really, in summary, what does a plan do? It identifies that preferred growth, future growth for the community. So there's that guide for policy decisions, influences growth and development and those utility needs, and importantly, influences the quality of life and community character. And as we get into the goals, hopefully that resonates a little bit in here as well. So what was our process? We had a 6-step process that we went through to develop the comprehensive plan. We started at the beginning of understanding community background. So it was our opportunity to look at demographics, how your last plan has informed growth, things of that nature, and then also got us starting to interact with the community and gather some feedbacks about likes and dislikes. We then created a vision and goal statements from that informed the analysis of our plan elements. What future land use categories did we want to have? How do we integrate transportation into those growth patterns, things of that nature? And then we ended with a plan for implementation. So we've got an implementation plan as part of the document that we will review and putting that all through and together towards plan adoption. who was involved in our process. I'll let you read what's on screen, but I wanted to just give a huge thanks to the staff that you have here at this community. They were a pleasure to work with anytime that I had. Every other week I got to spend a half an hour with Matt, which was some of the times the best parts of my week. They did a wonderful job providing insight into this plan, and really I think some of the successes of this plan are really from the staff that you have here. So just wanted to applaud them, and then of course the community is a big part, and I'll talk a little bit more about them in a moment. We did also have a steering committee that met with us a number of times to really serve as our guide for the plan process and helped us review materials along the way. So Councilmember Cummings and Keelblock, thank you for supporting us as the steering committee, but we also had members from various groups throughout the community that met with us 5 times to check in at different milestones and things of that nature. But public engagement was woven into many phases of our process, and that was really to help us understand their experiences in the community and where they wanted to see the community going. I shared this story at the Planning Commission meeting, but in my career, one of the most rewarding engagement experiences I had was here at JBS, where we were in the mid part of our process. We set up a pop event, as you can see on screen here, at Shift Change, and just hearing the different perspectives and experiences from groups of folks that we sometimes have a hard time engaging, and Matt's staff in the community development group, Christina and Jorge, they kind of took the reins and engaged, and it was a really rewarding experience for me as a practitioner who gets to do this around the Midwest. So that was just a really rewarding experience. So what were the outcomes of our process? We do have the overall plan, but it's really broken down into 3 main components, where we have our vision and goals, which establish where we want to be going as a community, the plan element strategies, which are some ideas and concepts that can help us achieve those goals, and then the implementation plan, which is a list of actions that we can be taking as we move towards that vision. But of course, it's not a comprehensive list because we don't know everything that you're going to encounter. But our structure for our goals, we have an overall vision statement that we established. Where do we want to be as our community in 2045? We have 5 goal statements that then support that overall vision, and then objectives that were built within each plan element. So there's a building of kind of content and more detail as we get to those objectives that help you think a little bit more strategically on different elements, and then that help to inform the implementation actions of the plan. I won't read the vision statement here, but this is the vision statement that we established, and really in its summary, the goal is to, by 2045, have our Worthington be a livable, accessible, active, welcoming, and economically vibrant place. So really having that goal of where we want to be as a community. Some of those things may be maintaining the existing elements that we have today, or enhancing things moving forward. The 5 goal statements that I mentioned are here on screen. I won't go through each of them, but we did have broad goals that were really focused around a livable community, a connected community, whether that's getting from point A to point B, walking, biking, driving, or connected to utilities and to Wi-Fi, things of that nature. Having an active community, whether that's through recreation and getting out physically, being active, or even just getting out and collaborating with community members and neighbors. Having a welcoming community where we all have a space to live and thrive, and then having an economically vibrant community where we can all find a place to live and work and things of that nature. The plan element strategies, we did have 8 that we looked at. Land use and zoning, I'll go in a little bit more detail about. That again is our founding element where we need to have a comprehensive plan around, but we also looked around the topics of housing, transportation, parks and rec, public buildings, economic development, natural resource management, and public utilities. In these elements, we were really looking at how does our land use guidance connect to these different elements, and making sure that we're supporting growth and investment in those areas to support the growth that's supported through the land use chapter. And all of that feeds into the implementation chapter at the end. So to give you a little flavor of what each of those elements are, we'll talk a little bit about land use. So we do have objectives that were developed for each of the plan elements. So each plan element has 5 objectives that are tied to each of the goal statements that we had identified to give you a little bit more detail. So if you're having to make a transportation decision, you can go to the transportation chapter, look at those specific objectives to help you make some guidance in what would align with a comprehensive plan. So from a land use perspective, I'll pick the livable one because it's the shortest one. Intentionally make land use decisions which positively impact affordability and employment growth. So I know that's a broad statement, but it gives a little backing as you're trying to choose a site for growth, one area that's going to cost you a lot of money to extend utilities, or another one that maybe has access to utilities and is going to be much easier to support growth, or maybe the housing authority has some dollars that can, be put into that development to make rents cheaper and things of that nature. So just using some of these objectives to help inform your decision making. From a land use framework perspective, for those of you that met with us at our first meeting, that 101 a long time ago, we chatted a lot about this, that land use is really the space where the comprehensive plan is, where we're only really looking at the use of the land. So what is the existing use of that property, and then what do we want that intended use to be? Is it a open space today and we'd like it to support residential uses in the future, things of that nature. But that land use plan needs to inform our future zoning decisions, both from a regulation standpoint, so there may be some policy directions when you go to update your zoning ordinance, or while somebody comes in and requests a zone change for a property, you should be referring back to the comprehensive plan for alignment there. But that zoning is really the regulations for the form and function, which then creates the development that we see today. Won't go into a ton of detail, but our land use categories are relatively similar to your current comprehensive plan in terms of the broad categories. We have our residential, where we live, commercial, where we work and play, industrial, where we work, and then some other categories to kind of hit a broad spectrum of some different services and things that we have in the community. So I think maybe some of the bigger things to just note, we do have 3 different density ranges for our residential uses, the low, which are usually your single unit developments, to your high density, which is going to be your apartments. We do have a downtown mixed use category that covers our downtown area, that allows a variety of uses, whether they're straight commercial uses, some residential uses, or the combo of the two. We do also have 2 commercial categories, which I think is a little bit of a shift from where you have been from a policy standpoint. That neighborhood commercial is really representing any commercial properties where they were built on a smaller piece of property that can become a development challenge for us, where the maybe code doesn't align with how things were developed years ago, versus our regional commercial, which is going to be your more traditional, larger lot, bigger box type development. So just gave us a way to kind of categorize those 2, which may help when you get to the zoning code update process. And those all are outlined within our future land use plan here. So you can see we've gone outside of city limits and identified those future land uses for potential growth areas. I think kind of big thing to think about here is there are some opportunities for industrial expansion, a lot of around areas where we already have some existing industrial uses. Our commercial growth areas are really centered around existing commercial areas or corridors that have supported that type of growth historically. And then we see a lot of our residential development in our future residential potential in our yellow and orange and brown on the west side of the community, but we did also include some opportunities for residential growth on the east side there, that we heard a lot of conversation about access to be able to walk and bike to work and some of those things, so getting some opportunities for development to potentially happen closer to JBS and other future growth opportunities there on the east side. We do also have an urban reserve category identified, which is the green kind of hatched color. These are areas that have the potential to be developed down the road. From our growth projections that we identified in the plan, you have more than enough future land use identified to support what we think is a realistic growth pattern, but just wanted to recognize that those are areas that have the potential to be developed maybe down the road. Some of these areas are ones that may be less desirable for development based on utility, the ability to extend utilities and things of that nature, or are maybe just areas that are not as preferred for growth based on their location or access and things of that nature. So then the plan for implementation, moving into our last chapter of the plan, this chapter is really intended to hopefully give the plan some legs other than it's just common uses for informing zone changes and things of that nature. So we did outline a variety of activities that we either chatted with folks about, came out of some actions that we could take to achieve our goals and things of that nature. So we created a matrix that identifies a few different things. We have actions identified for each of the 8 plan elements that we included. The specific action then, what type of action is that? Is that regulatory updates, code changes, things of that nature? Is it the creation of a new program? Is it doing more planning work? Is it just general guidance that we should be following? Or is it literally the construction of new infrastructure? We also, as a tool to give you more information as you're looking towards creating these actions, we identified a complexity and a benefit. So how complex is this action to complete, and what is that overall benefit in moving us towards our 2045 vision? These are just on a level of 1 to 3. So recognizing the complexity, maybe if you've got a 3, maybe it involves a railroad. Maybe it's going to be something that's going to cost a lot of money, things of that nature. Low complexity items, maybe things, it's a guidance that Matt can go back to his office and develop some guidance and have a new tool or something like that. So something that's a little easier. And that benefit, something with a high benefit, is going to really help the community advance the overall vision of the plan, or help on a couple of plan elements, things of that nature. And then we did identify a lead department and partners. This is just an opportunity to identify different departments who could take a lead in performing some of these actions. We didn't want to suggest that they all fall to Matt over here, so trying to spread out that wealth a little bit. Obviously, things can change and take shape, but those are just a kind of a suggestion. So just wanted to highlight, a few different examples on the screen here. We pulled from 4 different plan elements. So I'll just use the first one. A land use action was updating the zoning ordinance to reflect land use category changes and density and district modifications. Because it's a code update, it would be a regulatory type of action. A zoning code update can be rather complex. It's law that we're dealing with. It's going to take a little money to do but that your zoning ordinance is your key implementation tool to implementing the plan. So there is probably nothing of higher benefit than doing those actions. Because it's a land use element, community development would be the lead department, and then because it's city code, planning commission, and city council, you would need to adopt those changes. So just an example of the types of actions that we've included throughout the plan. So what are our next steps? Matt highlighted these in his report, but over the last few months, we've been refining the plan. It was available for the steering committee to review and then did go out to public review. We did not receive any formal public comments. Matt did get some inquiries about, when this would take into effect and what changes it included, but no specific comments on likes or dislikes of the plan. And then the Planning Commission did hold their public hearing and provided a recommendation to you for adoption. So what that means, we're here for action this evening, and assuming that there is a motion to adopt, tomorrow starts the implementation of the plan. So it's an exciting, this becomes your new document after this evening, should you approve.
Mike?
First of all, hats off to you, Matt. You did an excellent job. Thank you for your work, the steering committee, the council members, and your firm. I'm in awe about this whole plan. Back when I was at Planning Commission on the old comp, they referenced it whenever we'd change a land use or something. But that's all that it ever was. you know, this has got a lot more to it than just land use and zoning. You know, so this should be very good for developers, potential developers, people are looking at our community. So, thank you
Chad.
again, appreciate it.
Chad?
To expand on that, and I think even look, not only for landowners and developers and things of that sort, for this council.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, city councils have looked at things based upon what has been done in the past, instead of looking at what things are the vision of people who have been part of a comprehensive plan, looking at what could this community be in the future. And it scares me a lot because we have seen what has happened when councils have reacted to things that have been done in the past and continued those philosophies, opposed to looking at a comprehensive plan, which sometimes is a dream or at least a guidance vision of what could be in the future.
I just hope it doesn't get put on the shelf somewhere.
Well, that's up to those who use it,
I'm
council
hoping,
and planning.
you know, council, you know, one meeting a year be dedicated to the comp plan to make sure we're following it, you know,
Make sure it gets used.
yeah. But I'm in awe.
Very
You
nice,
know,
yeah.
it
Good read.
Seems to have some, if you need a little bit of flexibility, you're allowed to do that. You know, I like that, you know, so, because sometimes things can change.
All right. Anybody else have anything?
I think since you are the one that has been constantly asking Matt where he was on the comprehensive plan, you should be the one to make the motion. Since it'll be completed prior to you leaving council.
I more than anything like to ask that question because it was one of the things that you asked in his interview. And he said, whoa, that thing is way outdated. So I just like to keep you on task is really what it was. And then he just guided it there. But I do agree. It was a very interesting process to sit and listen to other community people and their perspectives on this, that oftentimes there are a number of people in our community that are more than willing to talk to us when they don't like something as council people. We all hear that one. But there are very few times that people come to us with at least a realistic vision of what could be, or how come we haven't, or why aren't we doing this. To be able to sit with a group of people who were business owners, who were residents, who are from different ethnic backgrounds, that are very much active parts of this community, and to be part of that, that was more of an eye-opener than anything in seeing how this vision laid out with some of those people and to hear their thoughts. So while we sit here and we make decisions that impact all of them, there are many of them that have a lot of thoughts and visions, but are sometimes apprehensive to come to us. We always will continue to hear the people who don't like something. Oftentimes, those people who don't like something that we did or have done in the past often are very uninformed of the actual realities of why some of those things happen, and there's reasons why, and you can explain that. But to have this is a very good tool, and thankfully for Matt to push it along to happen. I actually was fortunate enough to be part of the last one many moons ago that we were still operating on when that was done, as well as a community member. So it was neat to see how this one progressed and did as well. So with that, I would make a motion to adopt the our Worthington 2045 plan, comprehensive plan.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried.
All right,
Thank you,
everyone.
Thanks, Matt and Stephanie. Good work.
I have to confess, I often was prompting Chad to ask you where you were at.
Oh, I know.
Great job.
You know, it was kind of hurtful during his interview when he told us our comp plan was so out of date.
Exactly. He asked, didn't he? He almost led you to it. I mean, it was like, well,
He needed honesty. We're seeing if he's going to be honest.
All right, we will go on to council reports. I don't have anything. There was a few of us that went up to the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities up in Alexandria, and other than just the routine stuff, we'll wait and see what the legislative is going to go for a budget year anyways, and everybody's got to work that much harder at what they want anyways, since they've got split parties anyways, so that's all I have.
I have nothing.
Larry? Amy?
No report.
Chris?
I also attended the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities Conference in Alexandria. We had sessions, basically heard sessions about child care, marketing our towns in Greater Minnesota, the role of nonprofits in our communities, and what they can do to, whether it's offering programs or assistance in getting to where we want to be or want to be successful at. Of course, we've had a legislative rundown and looking what we have to look forward to, predominantly within the state of Minnesota and how that's set up. And then another session on HR and employment issues. So,
Okay, Mike?
I attended a LAC joint meeting, and Chad can maybe tell you more, but what I got out of it, the vehicle storage building is pretty much done. Came in at budget, or they made it come in at budget, $345K. I understand it's a 50-50 split.
Mostly.
Pay for that.
we're a titch more into
We're
it.
picking up the $15,000 that it was over budget.
Okay.
Otherwise, the county commissioners would not move forward with the project.
Seeing that they did have a comment though, so if it comes up under that, we'll get some of that back. And they say, good luck with that, right?
They then talked about future needs out there, and they want to take a look at the parking lots, all the parking lots around the building. The driving surfaces are getting in pretty bad shape. Nothing's been done in 20 years on those. They're looking at maybe cutting the parking surface back a ways because they don't normally need that much. Then they kind of threw out a cost split on that. Nothing was said one way or the other, but, I would think that cost split should be what you would normally have on that building. I figured the vehicle storage building was a one-off, because we probably take half of that building with our impounds. But when it comes to the rest of this, and nothing was said other than, well, we got to take a look at the cost split.
That cost sharing is already embedded in the lease, 15.97%.
Well, we need to stick with that. So, other than that, not too much at that. We had a city-county school meeting a week ago Friday. A lot of the discussion was on an accident that happened at Crailsheim and County Highway 35. There was one of the guards, not a child or anything, was involved in a hit by a car as she was walking back to the building. And I think rightfully so, we all need to come together and go at MnDOT, and it's time there needs to be some changes there somehow. What they are, I don't know.
I agree with what you're saying 100%. And if we don't push it as city officials, I don't think it's ever going to happen. That is one long educational school zone from Oxford Street to Fox Farm Road.
Yep.
And then after that, it is residential and it's getting more dense residential. I know they like that, whoever the original designers of that road was supposed to be a thoroughfare for Worthington, but we have to keep our residents and our kids safe, and there's been too many accidents. 4 days after that gal was hit in the crossing guard, there was a fatal accident on that road further down. And there's been totaled cars, there's a gal hit by a bike. We, as a council, have to take a stand on that and demand that something is fixed before somebody dies.
That's what it's going
Somebody
to take.
else.
Some more people die and more people get injured. So what does it take for MnDOT to take action on that? Or what can we do as a city to make it safer?
Well, the county needs to step up to play along with this because their engineer is the one that's kind of in charge of those projects.
Well, then we have to encourage it as,
Yeah.
as residents and council members of the city of Worthington, because it affects our residents and our kids. And I don't want my grandkids or any kids at all in the school district to get killed, or an adult for that matter, just because we're afraid to slow traffic down. It doesn't make sense.
And then along with that, though, we need to make sure we're enforcing the laws out there on those roads.
There's a lot of police officers out there right
There
now.
are. You drive by any day at 2:30 on, and they're sitting right on Trailside.
And Oxford.
Yeah.
Has that been since these accidents?
No,
Nope.
even before.
Before then,
Even before that?
we need signage.
Since
we
the beginning
need
of the school
something
year.
to slow people down.
Because I know MnDOT's going to come back, and one of their pushbacks is, we can put all the tools out there, but if you're not going to enforce them and write tickets,
That's on us.
that's on us.
Yep. As the city.
So we need to do that. So that took up quite a bit of time, as it is tonight here.
I don't
Coun-
think we can, I don't think it's something we should just brush over.
No, you're right. The county, their budget's going to be in that 5 to 6% plus range. The library's going to be moving to the Smock building for 2025. Kids Piece, the Kids Piece area out in the LEC building, $1.1 million renovation, and it's going to be a 72-hour mental health hold, which I think will be good for law enforcement. It'll be good because right now they have to haul someone all the way up by the cities or even up into North Dakota if they have one. So now they can keep them here. It's going to be, 8 beds, I think? So they say that'll probably fill up pretty fast. College enrollment is system-wide is up 8% this year, that was good to hear. The superintendent hire, getting back to the school again, their timeline is by mid-February to have a new superintendent hired. So there's that, and then I also attended the CGMC. Just 3 areas that caught my interest was one city had in place a grant program that's much like our facade program, only it's a $10,000 grant just in startup costs for a new business. So if a new business wants to start up, they get $10,000 in grants. Child care, that's all over the place. One city they created an endowment fund that's funded by the city, county, school, and private companies as well. Under employee pay and leave, there was a 4 to 5% wage increases is what's around the state. And then another one that kind of caught my eye was an internship program that one city is doing with the high school students, created an internship program. and then also a wellness program. So, we want to make sure we get people like Goo and Matt in shape, keep them in shape. So, that's it.
All right, thanks, Mike. Chad?
Every meeting I went to has been talked about, so I have nothing.
Steve?
Just remind council, City Hall, city operations will be closed for Thanksgiving on Thursday and Friday. That's all I.
Move to adjourn.
Second. We have a motion and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Motion carried.